Hello and welcome. In the spirit of my brand new book, The Delicate Art of Transformation, I've been on a quest for truth. What does it actually take to create real, lasting transformation? And here you are on the precipice of something big. I don't think that's a coincidence that we should ignore. Welcome, my friend. Welcome to the True Transformation Summit. This is where true growth and transformation happens because sometimes it's about your mindset. You're working on your thoughts and your beliefs. Sometimes it's about connecting deeper with your body. Sometimes it's stepping into success and rewiring yourself for wealth. And sometimes it's a spiritual one. But when the right person says the right thing at the right time and it all clicks, those are the moments that make all the difference. And that is what this summit is here for. You're going to hear from some incredible experts who every single one I personally invited to be here because each of them have made an impact in my life. So listen with an open heart, do what they say, take what resonates, try the practices, get their free gifts, and let this space be the place where you find your next step. My name is Talia Joy. I'm your host. And if you want all the free gifts, the resources, and the only place where you can be entered for prizes, you can join the Insider Circle for free below. All right, without further ado, take a deep breath in. Think about what you are transforming, what you are here for. And let's dive into today's episode. Hello, Jonathan. Welcome to the True Transformation Summit. How are you doing today, my friend?
Well, I'm feeling joyous, so it's a good day to do this.
Good. Feeling joy. That's excellent. Definitely better than sorrow. Well, is it better? Anyway, that's a different conversation. I'm so excited that you're here today. And I wanted you on this summit, not only from the work you did in the book, The Enlightenment Project, but I love where your work has headed now and talking about psychedelics and talking about intimacy and, bringing in that spiritual growth piece through the lens of psychedelics and how it helps you to rewire after trauma and all these types of things. So I really wanted your voice here. I love listening to you speak about this stuff. You're grounded, but also very inspiring. So thank you again for coming on the show.
Well, thank you.
All right. So if anybody hasn't heard of you and does not know your work, let's just start there. Let us know a little bit about who you are and the work you do.
Well, I had a very difficult childhood. So what happened was I discovered psychedelics pretty early in my teens, and I was amazed at how amazing they made me feel, joyous. And also with, say, MDMA or ecstasy in particular, it opened me up to my feelings, to spirituality, and to really connecting with others on a deep emotional level. And I was kind of a nerdy kid. So when these things started to open up, I said, I want to devote my life to being able to get there either with or without the medicines and really connect deeply in love, which I think is the foundation of why we're here.
Yeah. So did your psychedelic journey lead you to spirituality and growth, or did the spirituality lead you there? Or how did that unfold?
Well, psychedelics led to spirituality. The day after I first took LSD, I decided to take a meditation course. So I've been meditating an hour a day since I was 15. And that really has changed things. MDMA really introduced me to therapy. So I became a psychotherapist. And for the last 40 years, I've been kind of an underground psychedelic therapist, mostly working with ecstasy. And I find you can do 2 years of therapy in a single day with that medicine.
Wow. Let's talk about that. So why is it so powerful? Are you talking micro? Are you talking macro? Let's dive in.
Well, with that drug in particular, MDMA or ecstasy, there's not really a way to do it microdosing. What I do is I facilitate either individuals or couples. You might know it's been used to overcome PTSD, but it's also kind of like a Swiss Army knife. You can use it for anxiety, depression, life purpose, addictions, whatever. And what it does, it opens up people to a feeling of love and vulnerability and authenticity that is sometimes hard to get to in modern day life. And you get there with the medicine about 10 minutes. And then I guide people for 5 hours to do many things. But one of the things is to know how to connect with the love and peace within, which is really my definition of spirituality. A lot of people don't, we've heard the kingdom of heaven is within, but we don't know where that key is. But on MDMA, I can kind of pinpoint where that key is, and people have an easier time getting back to a place of love and peace after they've learned it.
Beautiful. So I know you facilitate that as you're speaking on. Did you experience that when you were on your own? Were psychedelics at first just to kind of get high? Did you feel that profound spiritual effect? Can people experience that on their own as well as in a facilitated space?
Well, in my book, Ecstasy as Medicine or Ecstasy as for Couples, I talk about how to do it on your own. But I do think that having a facilitator that's really trained in this makes it safer and deeper, and can be very useful for taking those insights and putting them in life. And that's really the key. How do you embody this deeper love, this deeper connection? So you want to take those insights, but you also want to learn those key little behaviors that really lead to change long term. Facilitator really helps with that.
Yeah, it feels like a safe, guided, intentional container as well. And I think of other things like ayahuasca or something else, like you want guides in a lot of these settings. So that makes sense. You could take someone deeper, know what to do, how to stay safe and all of that. So I'd love to ask you about why you think that MDMA or psychedelics make such a difference, and even maybe speaking to our brain and trauma and those types of things.
Well, it's hard to hit a target if you don't know what it is. So LSD or mushrooms or MDMA all give you an experience of what deep love or open-mindedness or connection with higher power really is like. And from there, the task is to then get there without the medicine. But what MDMA does is it reduces the blood flow to the amygdala in the brain, which is where we feel fear. So, couples that come to see me, they may have avoided talking about sex or their relationships for a long time. But with no fear, those conversations are really easy. People who've been traumatized, they don't talk about their trauma and it doesn't quite heal. It just kind of loops around for a long time. On MDMA, they can talk about like they're talking about the weather. And that experience then reduces the trauma or can help unite the couple, because once you face your deepest fears and you see that they're not really terrible, then you're more relaxed with it and you're more healed.
Wow. Yeah. Just thinking about how, we carry so much shame around our story or our trauma. And even by speaking about it, whether it's with a therapist or your partner or a friend, we almost relive that shame. And so, or that trauma in a way, right? So as you're saying, when we have no fear and we can just kind of speak it, that in itself is healing, to be able to see things, be with things, experience them without going full on into the fear or the shame. That's really powerful.
Yeah, a funny story I share in the book is my parents took MDMA because they were wondering why I was so involved in it. And they were conservative, but I gave them the medicine, told them how to take it in a good setting. A year later, I asked them if they took it, and they said, yeah, we took it, but we waited 20 minutes and nothing happened, so it didn't work. Well, it takes like 40 minutes for this to take effect. So I said, what happened after that? And they said, well, the strangest thing happened. We had nothing planned that night, so we sat on the couch and we ended up talking about how much we love each other. And we'd been arguing about this one argument for the last years. And somehow we worked that all out that night. And we haven't had an argument since. The only thing that was a disappointment was that the drug never took effect. Well, of course, that's the effect of the drug, that you can do that. And so I was really happy that they had that experience. And when I work with couples, that's often the experience, like they heal things that have been around for a lot of years.
That's powerful. And I'd love to almost hear your perspective on, I think of things like psilocybin, and as you're speaking MDMA, it almost is like, as you're speaking about reuniting with love, I see it's like our human experience, and we have that love, that source, that seed of source inside of us, but we have all these heavy layers, and we have our ego guarding the door and our perceptions and all this stuff. So it almost feels like the key, instead of trying to bash down all those doors and get rid of all those limiting beliefs, is to almost just soften and allow that love or that eternal truth to come through. Does that feel somewhat accurate to what psychedelics help us do? Or I'd love to hear your words on that.
Yeah, you said that really well. And that a lot of times our obstacles, our contractions that keep us from that greater love and greater peace are invisible to us. So on psychedelics or on MDMA, you can start to see those without any shame. You go, oh, that's interesting. I have this part of my body's really tight, or I have this idea that it's not okay to feel joy, or, those obstacles become really obvious. And that way, psychedelics and MDMA are like a microscope where you get to see things really clearly. And, once you see something clearly, then you can't unsee it. You don't, if you're walking along the road and you see dog poop, you don't need a plan to not step in it. You don't need to come up with a big strategy. Once you see it clearly, you'll step aside. You won't go into that. So that's part of the integration process, is getting people to see these things, how they keep them limited, and then what behaviors you could do, little behaviors you could do that help you to soften, to open, and to feel what I would call your true nature more consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, once we have that, we have that more, maybe it's intimacy, or we're not feeling the fear, and it becomes more consistent, then we don't always need those medicines. We don't need them every day. We don't need them all the time to feel a certain thing. I'd love to hear you speak how it almost activates it, because I've learned that about psilocybin is the mushrooms work even when you're not micro or macro dosing. So I'd be curious, your perspective on that too.
Well, so when you see something that's self-destructive or limiting, you're less likely to do it. Once we put our hand on a hot stove as a kid, we don't keep doing that. Mm-hmm. And once you see something is hurting you or keeping you limited, you tend not to do it. But, I focus a lot on integration and embodiment, and I have some interesting tools for doing that. For example, a lot of people know that, meditating 10 minutes a day would probably be a good idea, or going to the gym twice a week would be a good idea. But people know what to do, but they don't always do what they know. Mm. So I have like one motivational method that helps them. Like you say, okay, I'm going to meditate 10 minutes a day. And every day this week that I don't do that, I will rip up $1. Now, people hate ripping up $1. And so that little motivation actually gets them to sit down and do the meditation. And once you've meditated consistently long enough, it has a life of its own. You don't need some helper because you love it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good motivation. I love that. That's so good. So I'd love to just hear, in your own transformation, and as everybody listening is going through this time and there's a spiritual growth going on, I would just love to hear words on that, on, the spiritual ascension and how psychedelics support you with that, and just anything else that you want to go into.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a podcast called Awareness Explorers where I interview spiritual leaders, everybody from the Dalai Lama to Deepak Chopra, over 200 of them. And I'm often surprised at some of the things that they say, because when you get people from Buddhism and Christianity and other things all talking about the same thing, I go, that's really interesting. So a lot of these people have said that gratitude is a key to filling up that sense of emptiness we often feel. Mm. And a funny story, I may have mentioned this before, but I heard a friend say that they got a magical mantra for feeling gratitude from their guru. So I went to India, talked to the guru, which is a long way to get to India. And he said in his Indian accent, "Yes, my mantra is the most powerful on earth." He leans in to whisper it into my ear, and he says, "Whenever possible, say these words. The mantra I give you are the words, thank you." I looked at him, and I said, "That's it? I traveled 20,000 miles to get thank you?" And he said, "No, that's it is not the mantra. You must say thank you. So when you eat good food, say thank you. When you see your child or a sunset or pet, say thank you." And it's a really easy method. You feel your heart, and you say thank you to the universe or God or whatever. And gratitude helps you to feel connected to the higher power, connected to love even. It raises your vibration. So that is a very simple type of method I might give. Now, when people are on psychedelics or MDMA, they feel so much gratitude. They feel the bigness of that. So that gives them a sense of what's possible. So first you got to know what's possible. Then you got to use a really simple method to get back there. And then you need accountability to make sure you keep moving in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that mantra. It's so unique, so innovative. But yeah, I hear that. And even as we go, what? It's like, no, practice now. Okay. Thank you, Guru in India. And I'd love to, you touched on something. You said on MDMA or psychedelics, you feel that gratitude. And I just wanted to talk about that for a second, because gratitude in general, and I agree. And even reading your book, The Enlightenment Project, it's such a through line through all of these quote unquote gurus and all of these great thinkers. And, so to say, I'm grateful for my house, I'm grateful for my kids, that's one thing. But as we move through this growth and spiritual path, I feel like the feeling of it just becomes so much more. And gratitude becomes a feeling. Whereas before, maybe it was something you were just kind of reciting or writing down. I'd almost love to hear, from your perspective, the feeling versus just the thinking about the things you're grateful for.
Yeah, it's really, if you think about it as a portal, and you want to go through that portal. You don't want to just look at the portal, So, think of like a person or an animal that you're grateful for. You could think about this right now, and your listeners can do that. Like, I'm really grateful for my dog. I think of all the wonderful things I've experienced with her, or I'm very grateful for my wife. I had a toothache last week. I don't have a toothache now. I'm really grateful for that. And you really try to open your heart into that gratitude like it's a portal, that you're really stepping through it and you're not just reciting things. So whatever helps you to do that, it might be a song, it might be the thank you mantra, but it's really a mini meditation. You talk about microdosing. Well, you want microdose psychedelics maybe so that's more accessible to you. But really, you want to microdose gratitude throughout the day so that you can raise your frequency and see the world anew. A tool I sometimes give people is to think of somebody they're grateful for, and then close your eyes, and then imagine you're just born. You're seeing trees for the first time. You're seeing a computer for the first time. Think of this computer. We're talking over Zoom. I do most of my MDMA sessions over Zoom, and I'm very grateful for it. You can't do that with the other psychedelics, but with MDMA, you can. And I think, oh, thank you, Zoom. Thank you, computer. Thank you that I don't have a toothache. Thank you for my wife. And you stack that on top of each other. And it's really a meditation that raises your frequency. And psychedelics, I think, are really the doorway for a lot of people, because they don't know what's possible unless they've tried that.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. And that progression of, I'm grateful for this. And then you start stacking it. And then all of a sudden, almost the best way I can describe it is I start to feel it in my heart. I start to feel an aliveness, an openness, where now I'm not just saying I'm grateful for that. I'm really feeling that. And I was going to say that with my own self, and I'm sure people listening can resonate. Maybe you yourself have gone through this, Jonathan, but I notice that sometimes I almost cap the joy I can feel. So something will be really good. I'm like, yeah. And then I almost find this like moment of like, oh no, I gotta go. It's like I distract myself, and subconsciously I only let so much in. So I've found with plant medicine, anything from cannabis to psilocybin, I haven't done MDMA, but I find with these things, I can actually let more gratitude in. So when you were saying the stacking, sometimes I'll stop at a couple and I'm quote unquote distracted. I've timed out, I've numbed out, but sometimes, like you said, whatever allows you to really feel more. I'd just love to hear your perception on that, and if that's something you've experienced yourself.
Absolutely. It's kind of like we have a governor or a limit to the amount of joy or happiness we feel, and psychedelics can blow through that limit. And then you realize, oh, and then you see that obstacle, that distraction or whatever it is, and you go, well, I'm going to go forget that distraction, and really, I used to like to pet my dog, and you're a good dog like that. But now I have a love affair with the seeing my dog in the morning, like devotional. Oh, I love you so much. And, a little voice will go, this is looking ridiculous, right now, but, or you need to get back to work. Well, what's more important than feeling intense love and joy? I mean, that's really our work. And so it's like a muscle that you need to stretch periodically. Psychedelics, MDMA is a great opener for love. So when couples use it, they go, oh, that's what's possible. Okay, let's see how can we create that without the medicine now.
So when you're doing a session like that, when you're talking about couples speaking, they're obviously not high flying on Jupiter, unaware of what's going on. Like you're still very here and can actually carry on a type of conversation like that that's therapeutic.
Absolutely. It's like with my parents taking it, they didn't even realize that the best night of their 45-year marriage, they said, well, no, that wasn't a drug. We just happened to have the best night of our entire marriage. And we worked out every problem we've ever had. But we were just talking through. There was no effect.
It didn't work.
That's how, yeah, exactly. It often feels like you at your very best. And you wonder, why am I not feeling that? This feels clear-headed. I feel open. I'm not defensive. It's kind of like how you should be. But, the drug actually gives you a little bit of a boost that way.
And I'd like to say, I feel like I can hear some people, or maybe having the question, spiritual bypassing, right? We have been through things. We need to sometimes work through, things. So what's the difference there? Because I know everybody listening, like we've been through a lot of emotional work, a lot of self-awareness and all that. And I love to talk about how there's a time to look forward. There's a time to feel joy. There's a time to not always excavate, but we also don't want to bypass hard shit or the things that are calling for our attention. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that as well when it comes to this.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'd say half my clients are a little bit stuck in having to dig out through the latest trauma, the latest thing. And they've spent years doing that. And that's one wing of the plane. A plane needs two wings. One wing of the plane is looking at the shadow stuff and the trauma stuff and working through it. The other wing is expanding your joy, expanding your love, connecting with spirit, and things like that. Well, I find generally people have a tendency for one wing or the other. And it's really important that you have both and pretty much in balance. If you have in a plane, one wing is very long and one wing short, the plane goes around in circles and then it crashes. So I look to see which wing is stronger. And for a lot of people, nowadays, it's that they need to expand the joy wing, the love wing, the peace wing, and psychedelics are really good for that. So that's what I'm finding nowadays. I would have given you a different answer 10 years ago.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate your honesty because it does. It evolves, and how we see things evolves. And I was just kind of getting the idea of, someone might say, well, I can't just do MDMA and forget all my stuff. I need to work through it. But in some ways, what if you could? Because again, as you're saying, we have done a lot of work and all of that, but sometimes we don't have to just stay stuck in it for so long. We can have a totally quote unquote sober or whatever breakthrough that makes us all of a sudden see our parents different, see ourselves different, see our work different, and that can change us. So what if something like psychedelics done in a safe way or micro or whatever it is, what if that really truly could, as you're saying with your parents, change the future? Sometimes I think we think it can't be that easy. We think we need to work harder, as you're speaking to. But I believe, especially plant medicine and the earth and source and spirit, it's incredible what can happen in a short amount of time. So for anyone that's kind of thinking like it sounds bypassy, I really feel, but what if it could spark so much joy, as you said? What if it could grow your joy wing without it being hard and difficult and emotional and painful?
And seeing that is part of the evolution process. You need both wings. And if you are too caught in the wing of, I got to dig out this stuff and work hard and go to the therapist and whatever, if you're too locked into there and not doing the other, not experiencing these higher states of consciousness, then it will impede your growth, actually.
Yeah, because sometimes we just need to lighten up. I know I've gone through that huge from the heaviness of being a human and emotions. And what about my abandonment wound? And it got so heavy in 2025 that it was a crash and burn. It was not fun, but the end result was lightening up, seeing the light, enjoying myself, focusing on that end of the wing or that wing. And I love how you're speaking about this because it's so powerful. So as we start to wrap up, I'd love to hear if there's anything more that you want to say on transformation, spiritual expansion, psychedelics, anything else that you want to say?
Well, I love practical tools to get people into deep states of love and joy. And, we mentioned one or two, but I have a website, XTC, the letters XTC as medicine.com, where people can get two things for free if they put in their email address. One is something called the 12 questions to creating instant intimacy with anyone. And it's nice in this day and age of polarization to have a simple way to really connect deeply with a friend or a mate. And these 12 questions are amazing at doing that. And that's really fun. I also have on there 10 ways to avoid bad psychedelic trips, because you want to make sure you do this stuff safely, either with a guide or in a good setting. And that's a document that they can get for free as well. So it's important that as you explore new territory, that you do it safely and you find ways that you can get back to that love and peace that don't involve always taking the psychedelics again.
Absolutely, because that is within us. And sometimes we need tools and support to access it. But as talk about, and all these gurus say, that source is within us, that unconditional love, it's already there. We don't have to find it somewhere. Maybe it's more about softening the edges, allowing it to come forward, focusing on the joy wing. I love that so much. Thank you so much, Jonathan. And I will put the link in the show notes for those 12 questions and the website. And you also have a special promo code for anybody who is listening, who is interested in your MDMA facilitator training, where they can get $200 off, which is incredible. And one special winner from the Insider Circle is going to win that MDMA facilitator training for free. Can you tell us about this incredibly generous offer?
Yeah, a lot of people are wanting to learn how to do this work as these drugs become more legal. There was a big step last week with that. And over 500 people have taken the training, coaches, healers, therapists. And it's really incredibly moving work to help people in this way. So if your audience wants to look into that, they would go to mdmatraining.net. And if they use the coupon code JOY200, they'd get $200 off. That's JOY capital, all capitals 200. And that way they can get the training at a discount. And I am giving the training away to one of your listeners for free.
Wow. Thank you so much. I joke like I'm going to win that. Sorry, guys, I already won it. It's been rigged. I mean, it's not rigged. No, I'm just kidding. That is incredible. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for this conversation, for the work that you've done, the books you've written and everything that you share with the world. It's so important. So thank you again for this conversation and everything that you do.
Well, thank you for the work that you're doing, Tali. Keep it up.
Thank you for tuning in to the True Transformation Summit. Make sure to take what this guest said, implement it into your life, check the show notes for their gift and to follow along on the journey, and make sure to tune in to the next guest episode. Namaste.